For today's review, I'll be covering the 2024 Blazer EV RS. Okay, so overall, I really like the exterior design of the Blazer EV. I think Chevrolet did a pretty good job with the design of this car. You know, they've done the things that I generally like, which is deleting chrome, sticking to black accents. You know, the wheels are pretty good looking, although I do think they would look better in a gloss black. Exterior color options are pretty good. And overall, I think this is one of the better looking vehicles in the two-row EV segment. I happen to like the interior quite a bit on this car. The appointments are good. You can see on the RS model, you get Alcantara seating with red stitching, which is pretty sharp. You've got some cool embroidery on the headrests. Overall, the interior is a pretty nice place to be. I will say this vehicle has a ton of legroom in the second row. I am 6'5", and even with my seat, there is plenty of legroom for the rear passengers. You know, car seats. You can very comfortably seat 4 adults in this vehicle. All right, so cargo capacity is pretty good on this car. There's not much in terms of understorage area there like you see in some vehicles. But again, second row legroom and space overall really, really good. You can see again, the interior is quite a nice place to be. I think that they did a pretty good job on the interior. I happen to like several things like these turbine-looking HVAC vents. That's really cool. Very airplane-esque. You can see it's a pretty simple interior. Steering wheel is good. More of a squared bottom, which is neat. You can see some RS identifiers there. A black badging. All right, so I really do like the driver instrument cluster. A lot of customization on this screen, which is neat. You can go full screen maps, which is nice. You can have your audio sources integrated on the screen, maintenance details, simplified looks, etc. Power output. So just some really cool customization on the driver infotainment screen. You can see a lot of options for customization here. You've got a shortcuts tab up here in the top left. And you can see I've downloaded several third-party apps, which I use regularly, like Waze, Spotify, TuneIn, ChargePoint, PlugShare, etc. You can see you can customize your drive mode. Lots of options here between normal, sport, snow and ice, and my mode. I typically stick to my mode. All right, so I won't belabor this point, but certainly one of the more controversial aspects of this car is the lack of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You know, General Motors decided to go with a Google built-in system for the infotainment on the Blazer EV, and while it works well most of the time, if the goal was to be better than CarPlay or Android Auto, unfortunately, that was just not accomplished here, and that bet just did not pay off. It's not that I dislike this system, because for the most part, it is fairly easy to use. It's just that, you know, taking the flexibility and choice away from the customer, in my opinion, is a bad move, especially when you've spent, you know, the last 10 years developing this familiarity with the CarPlay and Android Auto systems. Another area that I think was amiss is the lack of front trunk, or what people call frunk. All right, so one of the things I really, really dislike about this vehicle is the charge port door, which for some reason is a electric sliding design, and you can just imagine the lifespan of this door is just not going to be good. I've not experienced this vehicle in a winter yet, but you can imagine when that's covered in snow and ice, and oh man, it just seems like the traditional gas door works so well. I mean, it's this a brand new vehicle. It's already creaking. It doesn't shut flush. Gosh, and you can already just hear the gears struggling to open and close. All right, so let's go on a drive in the 2024 Blazer EV RS. So, a few things that I'll call out just right from the start here is that I would not call this car fast. Certainly, it might feel more sporty than an ICE vehicle, but for anyone who's driven a fast car, and certainly anyone who has driven a Tesla, this car will not feel fast. So overall, driving impressions summarized, I would say it's just a nice all around driver. It's certainly good as a commuter and around town. It's equally good on the highway. It's very quiet. The ride is compliant. Certainly, it's a four season friendly vehicle. No issues in the snow, ice in this car. Certainly, with the all wheel drive models and a proper tire setup, this car would be just fine for anyone who's in a climate with a pretty strong winter setting. So one of the things that I have not liked about the driving experience on the Blazer EV is some of the active safety features, specifically the forward and reverse auto braking features. While great in theory, are very inconsistent and finicky in this car. And for whatever reason, the way that this vehicle has been calibrated and tuned, the braking is extremely abrupt and sharp. So much so that it's just alarming when it happens to you. All right, so another aspect I don't like about the Blazer EV is just the depreciation curve on this car. It feels like it's going to be very steep, hence why I strongly encourage you to lease this car and not purchase it. And if you have to purchase, I would strongly encourage you to consider going the used route. The EV segment in general already struggles to retain value in the same way that ICE vehicles or hybrids do. And this vehicle in particular seems like is going to depreciate rapidly. And so I worry for anyone who is, buying this car a year or 2 years from now. I just think that you're going to be in a position where, unless you put some significant money down, that you have a strong chance of being underwater and having negative equity in this car. I think in summary, I would characterize this car as, relaxed and balanced and comfortable to drive. Certainly, if speed and acceleration is your priority, there are better options in this segment. I would point you to Model Y, EV6, Mustang Mach-E GT. This is not a fast car. And while it will feel quick compared to an ICE car, it's just when you hammer the acceleration in this car, it's just not fast, and it just doesn't have that wow factor or smile factor that you get in some of the other EVs in the segment. All right, so in no particular order, again, things that I like about the Blazer EV. Again, design. I think they did a pretty good job on the exterior of this vehicle. It gets a lot of looks. It gets a lot of thumbs up. So in that sense, I really like the design. Two, the space and functionality in this car is good in terms of a daily driver, the ability to have car seats, transporting four adults, all very good in this vehicle. Number three, the interior just overall is a nice place to be. I like the interior. The appointments are pretty good. The software has some bugs that need to be ironed out. But I think you're hard pressed to find a new vehicle without a few software bugs at this point. Maybe Tesla being the exception to that rule. Number four, the charge speeds and the range. Overall, I think adequate. Middle to upper pack in this segment, and the price point. And then the fifth and the final thing is certainly the lease prices on this car. All right, so ultimately, who do I think is going to be buying the Blazer EV? I think it comes down to people who want to try something different than a Tesla. Obviously, Model Y has been extremely successful in this segment, and I think the Blazer EV is just going to be one of those options. When people don't want a Tesla, it will be a good option for them to consider. I also think people who are wanting really good value for an affordable lease and a lot of car for that price, the Blazer EV really delivers there. And I also think that people who are prioritizing practicality, functionality. I demonstrated the space in the car is really good. The ability to use it as a family vehicle is quite good. The car seat room is really good in this vehicle. So I think it's a very practical choice in this segment.